first encountered IFS, or internal family systems therapy, I almost dismissed it, thinking it's another model to learn with its complexity, and do I have the time and resources to invest in it, and do I really need it? After all, there are over 600 modalities of psychotherapies. One simply cannot know them all. But then the next day, I met someone who was actually practicing it. It got me a bit excited to have found this point of connection, at least for the sake of that conversation. What struck me, though, is the kind of presence this person had, the integrity and energy that she maintained. It was so refreshing that it made me go back for a closer look at IFS. Once I got the essence of it, I was simply fascinated. It's like I have found that missing piece of a portal into another world. You know, that piece that you put in place and the whole puzzle comes to life, lights up and everything makes sense. You can see all the connections running. I could see how IFS spans across, linking all the fundamental theories in psychology, from psychoanalytical to psychosynthesis, techniques I encountered in other approaches, integrating it all, also in line with the discoveries in neuroscience. It puts the cognitive behavioral theories in perspective and goes as deep as one can go into the psyche, to the underlying causes driving behavior. It also blends into spirituality. It's a psychospiritual model after all. So, what is IFS? IFS is on the cutting edge of psychotherapy as one of the most comprehensive and holistic approaches. And in the following 3 videos, I will focus on explaining IFS and how can it actually help anyone. Part of the reason is also because I've kept referring to IFS in my previous videos, so I thought it would be helpful. In a nutshell, IFS is a very compassionate and relational model, combining the systems theory with the idea of multiplicity of mind, or subpersonalities. And it has exploded in the last 5 to 10 years, becoming very sought after. So what makes it so amazing and popular? Let's bring it down to earth. IFS feels very natural and intuitive to most people because it sees the inner world of a person as a family, and everyone has a good understanding of what a family is. Our inner world of thoughts, impulses, feelings, and body sensations, not unlike families, are either in harmony or in conflict. Some may be hurting, and some may cause us to dissociate, while others might be critical of us as a result. And this is the systems approach to our inner world as a complex of parts that work together to create an outcome. When a part of the system is affected, usually it has an impact on the whole system. With regard to the idea of multiplicity of personalities, it's the paradigm shift from monomind to multiplicity of mind. For some, this is a hard one to swallow. However, as an evidence-based approach, IFS proved that this works. So perhaps there is more to discover and learn in this area. Let's look at an example. At work, one might show up in a very focused, cool manner, while at home one can be silly and playful. When criticized, the same person turns into a ball of fear and rage while attempting to maintain a compliant demeanor. It's the same person, but the set of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are different for each situation, almost like another person is present each time. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, nor a new concept or phenomena, as we will see. In the internal family systems approach, all these different feelings and thoughts and behaviors are called parts. Again, it was the most natural name because we actually speak like that. Part of me wants to go to that event, part of me would rather stay home. There are 2 fundamental premises in IFS, or key ideas. First is that everyone has parts, and second is that everyone has a self, the core of who we are. Let's look at this closer. First, everyone has different parts or subpersonalities inside them, and these parts do not always agree with each other. Think of a time when you had difficulties making a decision because you had different opinions about something. This is an example of having different parts that don't agree with each other. The concept of parts helps people gain clarity about what's going on inside of them. Instead of trying to deal with the abstract idea of anger, it can be more effective to think about it as a part, almost like a person inside of you who feels the anger. People deal with other people every day. Why not think of the feelings and urges inside of us as if they were like other people inside of us who are expressing those emotions? That way, we can use our natural ability to relate to other people in the exterior world to relate to our parts in our internal world, making it very natural. Another important aspect of it is that it helps you separate different feelings and thoughts from the totality of who you are. So instead of saying, I'm angry with my child or spouse, it's more helpful to identify that a part of me is angry, but I still love him or her. And both of these feelings are true and feel true. This is reassuring to both you and the other person. People find this very insightful and liberating. They are relieved to know that no, they're not crazy, helping them gain clarity and relate to that scared or angry part of themselves from a different place, noticing it and acknowledging it. However, this does not mean that you have to think of parts as if they are people inside you. All you have to do is get some separation from parts of yourself and get to know them. Now, another thing about the parts is some parts are burdened with extreme feelings and beliefs. And one of the goals of IFS therapy is to help these parts unburden and be free in their natural roles. To do that, we help them meet the self. And this is the second key idea or premise, that everyone has a core self. This is also known as the higher self, our soul, spirit, the image of God in us, or otherwise called in other belief systems. The self is not a part, but rather the very essence of our being, at the core of who we are. It is a positive way of being that is separate from the parts. The self always feels positively towards the parts and does not have an agenda about fixing them or others. This is the main difference between self and parts. It is not unusual for parts to feel scared of each other or angry or upset by each other. They may ridicule, criticize, or frighten each other, often to gain a certain outcome. The self never does these things. The self regards all parts with equal acceptance and interest, non-judgmentally. Its only agenda is to facilitate balance and harmony in the system. The self has powerful positive qualities that enable it to do so. Richard Schwartz, the founder of IFS, said that the way he discovered this aspect in a person is that he would run into these qualities even in those clients with the most horrific histories of abuse when nothing would seem to have ever happened in their lives. So he came up with 8 C's that characterize this self-energy: compassionate, calm, confident, curious, clear, courageous, creative, connected, sub-edit content, consistent, and also choice, a major one, as opposed to being driven by things that trigger our parts. There are also the 5 P's of self-qualities that manifest especially in the context of parenting, teaching, counseling, coaching. These are presence, patience, playfulness, persistence, and perspective. The self is not necessarily superior to the parts. In the same way, a conductor is not superior to the musicians in an orchestra. However, the self will provide leadership in the inner system as a natural leader. Tony Herbine Blank, an IFS lead trainer who developed IFS for couples, said that parts are our humanity. Parts would be the equivalent of our personality traits, thus subpersonalities, while burden parts in particular would constitute what is known as the ego. The goal is for the self to be in relationship with these parts, forming secure attachments, and be a mediator between parts. So you'll hear the idea of self-leadership, leading from this core of light and goodness. What might that sound like in reality? For example, you have a part that felt hurt by a comment. Almost immediately you feel the angry part rising as well. You could react from this angry fighter part, or from a self-observant place, you could offer some comfort to the hurt part. Let them know you got it, and that they can let you handle it, and that you would attend to them later if needed. Such reassurance will allow the parts to relax, giving you perspective, which is a quality of self, over the situation. From this place of calm and courage, you are able to deal with it, leaning on the resources and wisdom of the self and other parts with much better outcomes for all. In the next episode, we'll have a closer look at all these groups of parts and how they manifest at their best and at their worst. And then further, I'll cover inner parts work and how can you know when you're in self. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you celebrate Easter, happy Easter Sunday. You take care and let hope raise you on wings like eagles.